100,000 people have sat underneath this roof. This is AT&T Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys. 660,000 square feet of roof above my head. The man who roofed this building never expected to be in roofing at all. Steve Little spent 25 years in Super Bowls, World Series, Olympics. Not one day on a roof. A chance meeting with another parent at his daughter's cheer competition pulled him into the roofing world. He went to work under a roofer named Kiesel. Then they walked out and started their own. Steve wrote a business plan. $6 million, then 8, then 10. Home by 5. 100 employees, tops. That was the ceiling. He was wrong about the ceiling. He built the company like a football team. Offense, defense, special teams. Made himself the head coach. A decade later, a different building needed a roof. Same guy, a pandemic, a World Series played under it. Somewhere right now, a contractor is staring at their own ceiling, wondering if they wrote it too low. Stay with us. Steve's about to show you how to raise it. Steve, welcome to the tie-in.
Oh, I'm excited about this conversation. We got Steve Little in the lab here. And John, I told you before the show that I was just going to kind of do this part. I'm going to get out of the way because I want to sit back and have some storytelling with Steve and John and get into it. So Steve, John, I'm getting out of here. You guys have some fun. John, I'm throwing the camera to you, my friend.
Hey,
Mr. Little.
How are we doing, guys? What a great show and what a great idea.
I'm loving it. And I can't thank you enough for having the faith to join us on our first show where things can go severely wrong or take a wrong turn.
I got in this business and I've been a guinea pig for 25 years now with my partner, Keith and Jane, who we started the company with. They both are industry veterans. And just like Keith, I had to learn the business here. So your shows, the segments that you're going to have, you're going to really get to educate him.
I think we might have had John freeze there for a quick second there. So Steve, let's continue. I got to be honest with you. You saw the opener, first impressions of seeing yourself again, maybe in that stadium. Take me back. Take me back to the moment where you weren't supposed to be in the industry. Then you ended up in the roofing industry.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I was in the sports license product industry and we were working for the Staubachs. And they had invested in a computer accessory company that had a bunch of inventory. And instead of manufacturing it themselves, they went out in the marketplace and bought a bunch of inventory and brought it into the country. All of a sudden, the New England Patriots decided to change their logo, and they had $90,000 worth of inventory. That was like, oh, crap, what do I do now? And fortunately, the leagues allowed us a way to be able to exit with the product. But we made that company profitable and sold it. And our daughter was in cheerleading with a contractor.
Yeah.
We became very friendly, and one day they were thinking of selling their company, and I'm a business guy, and they asked me to look at the books. And next thing you know, they didn't sell of it, and I came to work for them. And Keith Post and I became very friendly. And Jane, Keith, and I started the business back in November of 2003.
There's a story within that story, isn't there, Steve, where a lot of humans, there's a lot of men, women out there who don't know what their path's going to be, who ended up in a path. You embraced it. You wrapped your arms around it. Let's be frank, it changed your life.
It did. It did. Once you get into roofing, once you get into subcontracting, it is hard to get out. You just become part of the process. And when you realize that you drive down the streets and you see all these buildings that you've been part of from the conceptual part all the way to the actual final product, and you realize that they're housing businesses and they're making lives for humans, and that you were part of building that. Just like building AT&T Stadium, or whether it be Globe Life Field, or coming back and re-roofing the American Airlines Center or the Toyota Arena down in Houston. I mean, you become part of people's sports, which takes me back to being in the sports business, which takes me back to being a head coach. And so it's really been a fulfilling career, and we're not done yet. Okay. So we still have a few things up our sleeve.
When the fellow was building my house, I said to him, "You're building a legacy." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're building something for my family." And I look to all the people that have enjoyed the impact you have had by what you do for a living. You think about that because people can take it for granted. And I mean that seriously.
All of us contractors are humbled. And I will promise you that beginning of your show, you said there's a lot of gratitude, that John had a lot of gratitude to be part of this. And Keith and Jane and I do too. We're very fortunate that our chemistry worked. We pulled it together. We had a lot of strategic partners and vendors that helped us. We hired great, great people. And then as a good coach, you get out of the way and you let those players play. And I'm telling you, we have some great players, and we've scored more points than we've had penalties, and we've built a very nice business.
So good coaches build good teams, and I got a great teammate, my friend John Kiesel. So John, you passed it off to me there. I'm going to pass myself out of here and let you continue with this wonderful conversation with Steve Little.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened to the internet. All of a sudden, that's one of those glitches you have in the real world. Steve, I just wanted to talk about the NRAP program. If you could help explain a little bit about what that looks like and the mission of it, I think it's an outstanding initiative, and I'd just like to hear a little bit more about it.
Well, John, you mentioned earlier about the Center for Roofing that's at Clemson University. It is the single first center of any kind of trade in the construction industry. There's a center for lumber and a center for concrete and things like that, but the trade of the assembly of the product, we have a center for roofing at Clemson. And that was the end game of creating college courses in School of Constructions for people to join the roofing industry. Historically, they'd spend 2 hours, 4 hours a year in construction management, learning anything about building envelope. And now we actually have a 12 credit courses that are available at a number of universities across the country. Well, to that point, the Alliance and the NRCA realized that we have some great tools to onboard some folks in our industry, whether they be white collar or blue collar, but we weren't part of the apprenticeship world. You know, you hear electrical, plumbing, HVAC, join the trades, get your certifications, and join our construction industry. But roofing, you know, come on, we're food, water, and shelter. We're the shelter part of this gig. And there was no apprenticeship program for it. So once the Alliance, which, by the way, congratulations for being a director. It's a great organization. Once the Alliance had finished their initiative to bring roofing to the attention of high schools and secondary schools through Skills USA, there was a gap between the let them know what kind of industry that we have on the Skills USA part, and then being in roofing and being part of pro certification, and then going into the college side of the business. There was no merit shop apprenticeship program. The unions have a great apprenticeship program going, and they had apprenticeship in that group, but unfortunately, it's only 8 to 10% of our roofing workforce. So 90%, 92% were missing out on no entry into getting into the blue collar part of our industry.
Yeah, that's fascinating because we're looking at people with energy to approach the industry through the skills, and that gets you to one point. And then to take it from there to continue with a structured learning path, it drops off and becomes on-the-job training. So trying to continue to move an initiative into a structured learning environment that keeps people engaged and continuing to fuel their fire to learn is really the mission we're kind of on here, I think.
We have 3 partners that are helping us do this. First of all, it's a Roofing Alliance that has worked with the NRCA. Roofing Alliance is the foundation of the NRCA. And they got together with the NCCER, which is a governing body for all apprenticeships across the country. There's 47 different apprenticeships. And then ABC, Associated Building Contractors. And that group has 67 training centers across the country. So the first time in the history of roofing, we have taken 3 organizations and brought them together. We have the curriculum and the training tools and the actual testing from the NCCER. We have the blessing and the technical aspect that was inserted into the curriculum from the NRCA, the National Roofing Contractors Association. And we have ABC, the Associated Building Contractors, that have the training centers together. Our job as NRAP at the National Roofing Apprenticeship Program is to pull these parties together, incubate the program, and drive students to the apprenticeship side of the business.
Yeah, and that drive is going to come from providing an attractive training program where there's skilled professionals helping to guide that, and they feel that they're entering into this structured environment that's put on and developed the appropriate way so that when they're on the job, they're learning things that make sense. And I think that's really a subject matter experts in the industry and how we like to teach. That's really where we can help influence the success and failures. And I'm looking forward for Division 7 in Ohio to carry that burden, to carry that ball and do our part.
Hey, you're hanging out with Keith, John, and Steve on the tie-in, our brand new show. We're reimagining the roofing industry, and you both keep talking about people, and you guys both strike me as nothing short of having ambition. John, as I continue to get to know you, and Steve, as I'm getting to know you, you have plenty of ambition. I found a really interesting Mark Twain quote that I wanted to throw on the table, and the quote goes like this: keep away from people who try to belittle your ambitions. And I can only think, Steve and John, somebody said to one of you along the way your entire life that, no, you're not going to do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And at some point in our life, we say to ourselves, we don't want to surround ourselves with those kind of people. So, John, I want to go to you next. What does this quote mean to you in business, just in life in general? John Kiesel.
Yeah, it's one of those moments in time that you probably won't forget. The put down, the shutdown, it won't work. It's never going to work. And unfortunately, people that have that ability to be influenced, they're going to cave to that. But for me, it just fueled the fire. It just made it more desirable. And they're like, thank you. Now I have to show you. And I want that even more than what the whole goal was to begin with. It's just to prove that it can be done and it should be done. And that's just how it's going to go. But we do have people. We need to have balance. We can't go off the rails. So I appreciate really guidance and giving me that devil's advocate perspective. But we all have those people, but I think they get less and less the older you get.
What about you, Steve? What kind of wisdom would you throw on the table to that statement?
I think the naysayers are the ones that fuel the tank to drive the engine. Roofers do not have a very good reputation on the consumer side of the business. We have a lot of stormers that hit the streets. They knock on the doors. They want to do your roof. And then the press gets a hold of that. Those 2 or 3 people that did not fulfill the contracts that needed to be done. And now it's paintbrushed across the board. The roofers are just crap. They're just, you got to watch out for those guys. Those are the shaky ones that are in the industry. And I'm telling you, we're the folks that put lifetime warranties roofs on your homes. We're the folks that cover the stadiums and the hospitals and the data centers. We're covering your schools where our kids go to school and providing building envelope coverage for our universities to further bring more wisdom, responsibility from the students that are going there. We're the good guys. I'm so excited about this show because I see the show doing 2 things. First of all, I see it really helping our industries. Contractors that didn't have resources to go to be able to talk to real contractors or people that are at the table, like you guys were talking about earlier in your opening.
Yeah.
And then second of all, the consumers. This is going to catch fire. It's going to be distributed through social media. People are going to grab this. They're going to say, hey, wait a second. That John Kiesel guy, he said blah, 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 blah. I'm going to ask my contractor about this. And we're going to raise the level of professionalism in our roofing industry. So really cool to be part of this.
So, John, you introduced me to something. I think maybe this is a good time to have this conversation because you said something, Steve, about roofers not having a good reputation. Well, John, we were talking about an incident that happened at Texas Stadium, I believe.
No.
But I believe it's a chance for us because I learned something. It actually wasn't the roof.
Correct. It was not the roof.
And it's funny because Kiesel was like, Keith, when you look up, what do you see? I'm like, well, the ceiling. He goes, yeah, but yet everybody's like the roof. So, John, can you set this up for us where you guys can teach me a little bit what happened there?
Yeah, Steve could give us the insight into what really happened, but I was sitting there watching football that day and seeing this piece of metal flutter down to the field. The first thing that came to my mind was Steve Little put this roof on, and I think the announcer may have said the piece of metal came down from the roof, and it's not the roof. The roof's above what we're looking up at. It'd be impossible.
Yeah, it is ironic that every time something happens at AT&T Stadium, whether it was during the Super Bowl and the ice fell off the roof during that time period, or if it's that piece of metal that fell down, that air conditioning housing that fell down from the ceiling, my phone blows up. And my friends in the industry are, what'd you do this time, Little? Well, I thought you guys were safety, quality, value. What the hell's going on over there? And the reality is that you have different elements that impact the roof. We have a lot of HVAC people, a lot of electrical people, a lot of plumbers that get on our roofs or work in the ceilings of the roofs that we put down. And they don't necessarily have the same process of managing the roof that we might have. They're managing their particular areas of responsibility, and one thing leads to another, and the building leaks or something falls off and it's the roofer's fault.
So, John, if I may ask this, and Steve, I'm a big fan of the moment behind the moment. Where were you in the moment? I'm thinking the night before you had no belief that you were getting a call from maybe Jerry Jones. Somebody's calling you to say, this is happening. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is happening. You know it's not the roof. Now you got to go into communications control. Talk from the business sense, Steve. Talk about you as reacting, all that scenario.
Well, first of all, let's clear the air on Jerry Jones and the Jones family. Some of the best professionals that I work with in the 28 years of being in this industry. Great people to work with. They have a great team of folks. And so what does happen is those team of folks call our folks who manage their account, or they call our operations teams.
Okay.
You're Johnny on the spot, because even these roofs are 20 to 30-year warranties that are on them. Once you do a roof for somebody, you are part of that fiber now to the next time that they need to have that roof re-roofed. You're servicing it on an annual basis. You're giving them assessments for what their maintenance costs will be for 5 years. You're their partner. You're their building envelope partner.
John, it's legacy we talk. Hey, John Kiesel, it's legacy. You're part of something for a long time.
That's what makes us grow. That's what makes us stay in business for as long as we've stayed in business, is doing the right thing for a long time. People can start up a business, get a few Google ratings, but they don't tell the story of how they've responded to adversity over time. This is the differentiator when it comes to a business and how long you've been in business. Is you've responded to situations and people appreciated it. And that's, to me, that's the legacy we're talking about.
150 billion square feet.
That's commercial roof in this country alone.
So what if every square foot came due Moya, same 12 months?
Doesn't, won't. Let's say it did.
What breaks first? The labor, every time.
The specification.
Every time.
Keith,
John.
settle it.
Keith, John, and Steve. Steve, I incorrectly muted you there quickly. You had a question for me as we're coming out of that last segment.
Yeah, I wanted to know how many roofs you've been on.
I mean, roofs are roofs. I have not been on many roofs. I've been on some commercial buildings when I worked in the corporate world, Steve, at the top. But I got to be honest, I have not been on plenty at all. I love engineering and I'm fascinated by them, though.
So are you familiar with the integrity of sports, whether it be golf or pickleball or tennis or football, or watch a lot of World Cup right now, football, to where the players need to call themselves out when something's not right?
Yeah.
And there has to be a lot of integrity in it. Well, our clients don't typically get on the roofs. They only call when there's a problem. So what we do when we install our roofs is we have to have the integrity to install them the way that our manufacturers intended them to be, and to the guidelines and technical services of the NRCA. So Elevate's one of our sponsors here on the show.
Yeah.
And the reality is that they provide us a format of how they want us to install that roof, because they're taking the 20-year risk that roof is going to perform.
And that's a true story, Keith.
Well, you know what's crazy about this is that, so what you're saying to me, just I want to paraphrase this. So I'm cutting you a check for gazillions of dollars. And usually when we own something, we like to feel it and put it in our pocket. But I'm trusting you that I'm buying this. I'm probably not ever going up there. I'm actually trusting the integrity of you.
Yes. And the men and women that do the install, that communicate on a regular basis. And that's why people are so important to us.
Of course.
John and I manage the emotional intelligence of people. It's not just the roofing product, because Elevate's a great worldly owned company.
Yes.
And they do a really good job of taking care of us and take care of our clients. But we have to take care of our people so they'll show up the next day. We've got to provide the ability for them to get the compensation that they need to be able to take care of their families. So we concentrate more of our time there.
So John, this is why I was so excited to do this with you, because this to me is not what I grew up with as roofing. And I mean that with compliment and love, because we're talking about so much more. We're talking business integrity. We're talking, I'm not saying that's not part of it, but again, I grew up in blue collar families. My family's in the construction industry and so forth. And when I think about what we're talking about right now and people and leadership, is just so much fun things you guys are doing right now.
It's a massive machine, Keith. We're navigating very, very big liabilities, the world's biggest brands, the things that are inside of these structures, and navigating a lot of stressful situations. People do not want to have their building converged on by 25, 30 people jumping up over their heads and starting to rumble around and make noise. That is not a soothing experience. If someday, Keith, if you happen to be in a building someday and people are putting a roof on it, you're going to start feeling a little bit nervous. And our roofs take a year and a half to get completed. We're talking about major infrastructure. In that last segment, if all the roofs became due all at the same time, it would be a disaster, right? There's no real reality to it. That puts me into the perspective of preventive maintenance. That's the perspective of how well the roof was installed. Because if every roof was installed today, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of roofs failing at year maybe 5, 10, 15. And that's probably part of how it was installed. And then once it gets past that, it's about how well it's maintained. So it's a natural evolution of a roof. It has a major component of how it was installed and how it's maintained.
You're hanging out with Keith, John, and Steve Little today on our brand new show called The Tie-In over on the Roofing Authority Network. We're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. Hey, John, I'm going to step out of here for a few more minutes. You guys can wrap up a little bit before we bring in the Above the Line segment, a brand new sponsored feature by Elevate, Above the Line. I'm going to get out of here for a few minutes, John, and we'll let you guys wrap up with Steve before we keep the show going on. All right, John?
Let's go.
All right.
Hey, John, I think it's kind of cool that you've got this show going to where you're going to talk about what's going to happen in the next 50 years. And Keith mentioned what's changed. And I think we were just talking about it, managing the emotional intelligence of our employees, the technology that comes into place, the expectations of quick answers now with technology, with phone and texting and AI and everything that's there. But we came from an industry that was generational. Grandfathers and fathers and sons and daughters took over for their families. And now it's become a lot more corporate, because keeping those people outside on the roof or keeping them in the trades is so much harder today.
Yeah, and I think that the technology component and just the awareness of opportunity. When I started roofing, it was, I'm making enough money, I'm feeling great about myself. I wasn't bombarded with, hey, you could be this, hey, you could be that, hey, apply here, hey, apply there. We got a new job, you can go to work in a warehouse, make $25. The information wasn't readily available to view another path. Today, we're in a competitive arena that every day somebody's being presented with 20 different ideas on how to take care of yourself and earn a living.
It's crazy the competition that we have just to have good people. But all of our companies of any kind of scale, we have HR, we have purchasing, we have inventory control, we have IT, and we haven't even gotten to the roof yet. There's so many opportunities in our industry for people. And so although we've created this National Roofing Apprenticeship Program so that when people mention HVAC, plumbing, electrical, the fourth thing that comes out of their mouth, damn sure better be roofing here after their first year.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, and maybe you can help me out with this. But for me, one of the most important hires that I made when we were growing and transitioning from me and George wearing many hats was hiring somebody to handle HR, handling somebody that connected with our people, somebody that was naturally born to care and nurture and hire, right, and build relationships with our staff and be dedicated at full time. And when people, maybe you can weigh in on this, but when newer people around the industry, maybe the best of success. And hey, John, what did you do? What changed the way Division 7? What happened at Division 7 allowed you to grow? I think it was the HR department that was a big key for us. How about you?
Yeah, I think so too. It's the emotional intelligence of the employees. It's the cycle of life that we're in today. Before, the fathers worked until the 67, 80 hours a week, and that was that they were workaholics. And then we got into the 70s, and now we had two partners that were out there working. And the kids saw what both parents were working and what they were trying to accomplish. And they were like, hey, I want more quality of life. I want more of this. I want more of that. And it turned around and put the pressure on us as employers now to be able to offer more quality of life at work. It is not a just get in there and bust ass for 40 or 50 hours a week. You've got to show quality and compassion, and you've got to be able to build gratitude.